Guardians named their opening day starter. No surprises. It'll be Tanner Bibee. But is the Guardians' pitching depth they worked so hard to build over the offseason being tested already?
Tanner Bibee of the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Tanner Bibee will indeed make the opening day start. The obvious choice all along. We will talk about that today. The Guardians' pitching depth already being tested out of the gate. Season hasn't even started. There are some concerns right out of the way. We'll talk about that, the bullpen, and we will talk about how the roster is taking shape on today's episode of Locked On Guardians. Before we get too deep into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Welcome on into Locked On Guardians. I'm Justin Latta, one of your two co-hosts. Thank you for tuning in and making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day wherever you get podcasts. We're free everywhere. We're on YouTube. We're on all the other apps. And we are so glad that you chose to be here today for the best half hour of our day, at least my day, talking Guardians baseball. And we appreciate you being here. I have been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007. I was previously the editor-in-chief of Guardians Baseball Insider, currently at the News Herald, The Morning Journal, Prospects Live, nextyearincleveland.substack.com. And here with you, Jeff.
I am Jeff Ellis, and I have lost power twice this evening because I'm in an ice storm. So if I drop out, I'm going to apologize now. I'm going to be honest with our listeners. I appreciate each and every one of you. So if something goes sideways, I just want to do a forward apology because that feels like the right thing to do. Before this, I was a lead prospect and draft analyst nationally at Scout and 24/7. Replaced Kylie McDaniel at Scout there. And, they made a bold choice. We'll see how it works for him with Tanner as their opening day starter. Personally, I think they should have gone with Carlos Carrasco, who is probably going to make the Yankees rotation. Please note, I am joking to any new listener out there. Please note the deadpan approach for humor. There was one choice. There was only one choice. There could be only one. And, he is Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod. That's who Tanner Bibee is right now. Or as people would say, Tanner Bibee. Whenever I go on another show or podcast, and people are always like, "Tell us about the Tanner Bibee guy." Like, oh, okay. Now I can't talk about pronunciation. I should just be quiet right now. That's like,
If he gets some Cy Young votes this year, we can make people feel bad for not being able to pronounce the name. How about that?
I mean, people were still calling him Emmanuel Clace last year at points, and I talked to people. So.
That's interesting. I thought it was going to be Tyler Naquin. Tyler Naquin was the first Guardians rookie outfielder ever. First Guardians outfielder ever. If you remember that joke from the 2016 World Series. Comment if you remember that reference. No, I thought Tyler Naquin would start opening day. No, it was Tanner Bibee all along. And I think the only reason to hold that up was really get through maybe that third, or it was actually his second start. He's only made 2 starts on the major league side of camp. He's worked on the backfields a little bit this spring and a different way to ease him in this year. He'll make one more start before the opening day. So I guess they just want to make sure he made it through before they did it. I can't remember if you said this last week or not. Jokingly on the air off there, you said, well, maybe it's a negotiation tactic.
I don't remember if I said it on air or off, but I joked about it because I just couldn't. There was no other reason that I could come up with. So when I put on my tinfoil hat, that was the only thing that came to mind.
Speaking of naming opening day starter, the Guardians, only had a week left. We're a week away from opening day. I can't believe it's almost already here. So about 7 days and some odd hours, but probably most people are listening to this. Opening day will be here. So the clock is winding down on negotiations, by the way, and we don't have anything further on negotiations for anybody, let alone Tanner, except for negotiations have been happening and they continue to happen, and we don't know where things are in the progress meter. So,
and the one thing I will say is listen, we get guests occasionally, and we'll be honest, we have formed relationships with agents over the years and agencies, mostly because they want their players to come on here and get exposure. But whenever things leak, it is agent friendly relations. That is, it never leaks because of the team. It never comes out. Teams. It's always an agent leak. So,
there's been no leaks on this other than
there's been nothing, which also speaks to it.
Maybe that's good.
Yeah,
when things leak, it's usually bad for the Guardians.
Yeah, honestly, it's I if I go back to Jose, I got I got a DM about an hour before it broke, and I was in a staff meeting, and I didn't check my personal emails because I was responsible at work, moron, clearly. And or else I could have broken
don't need you. Those kids don't need you.
Broken the Jose information ahead of time, but before that hour, like, not only was there no rumors, like they were fairly close to a San Diego deal. That I had heard more about that. So it's just, Cleveland does not like to negotiate in public. They're not going to negotiate against themselves, which is all public negotiation is.
The thing the Guardians should do next, if they were smart, not that they're not smart, but the thing I would do next, and this is what we've been saying all along, is the next thing they should do is have a Tanner Bibee extension ready to announce. That's to build some excitement for opening day. Like, opening day is a week away, and we've been talking about this on off air because our numbers are fluctuating, and you got our diehards, which we love, our insiders, our everydayers, we love those people, and we love everybody who listens to the show, but our numbers are fluctuating right now, and it's just like so weird. And you were talking like, is there really like excitement? I'm curious from all of our listeners. Leave a comment or, reach us on social media or email the show at loguardianshow@gmail.com and tell us, what are you excited for about the season? Like, what has you most excited for this season coming up? Because I feel like there really is like a weird lull in terms of lack of excitement. Like, camp has been quiet. Like, it's been quiet. That's a good thing because like, look at the Yankees. The Yankees have one pitching injury after the next. There's been so many things going on. There's been a lot. I'm okay with a quiet camp. It just feels like there's like a very limited buzz for the season for a team coming off of a ALCS run. So I think announcing a Tanner Bibee extension, I know some people are going to say, what about Stephen Kwan extension? You and I have both said before, that's out the window, I think, at this point. So it's, to me, it's Bibee. Again, it's Bibee and it's Cade Smith. Those are the guys you look at right now. Having those, I think they won't announce those until like opening day or maybe before the home opener. I remember specifically in 2015 or maybe it was 2014 that they had Kipnis and Yan Gomes extensions, maybe Michael Brantley extensions, all lined up for the home opener. So they might keep those under wraps until the home opener, maybe, which is not for another week after, or actually more than 10 days after the season opener. So it might be a while until if anything's going to happen, if we hear about it. But like, I think having an extension in up their sleeve might help for opening day. But like, I keep comparing them to the Cavs, right? Like the Cavs are a very, very talented roster. Obviously they have, and when you only play with 5 guys or 10 players, when you have 5 really good players out of your 10 or whatever, the concentration of your best players being able to impact the game is great. If the Guardians had 7 Jose Ramirez's, they'd be great too. We'd love that. But like, I remember going into the season for the Cavs and was like, well, they didn't do anything over the offseason. Like they drafted their draft pick. They didn't really add any. He's barely played, and they hired a new coach. And I was like, how much can a new coach really change things, right? Like from the year before. And kind of the same as the Guardians last year, right? They didn't really do anything. The Guardians had a louder offseason in 2023 than the Cavs because the Cavs hired a new coach. They didn't add any free agents, really. The Guardians added, Josh Bell, Mike Zunino, and they fell flat on their faces that year without a new manager. They don't add anything last offseason, right? And except for Scott Barlow was their biggest, and Austin Hedges were their biggest additions last year.
Barlow and Hedges were kind of there.
Right. They changed managers.
And vote,
Right. They changed managers, and they went back to the playoffs. So, like, all the Cavs did this offseason was change their coach, and they're now the best team in basketball. So I was skeptical about the Cavs coming into the season, even though I know the roster is very talented, but all they did was change coaches. So like maybe the Guardians are the same way. I know there's like limited excitement maybe about roster changes or non-roster changes. The Guardians did have an active offseason in terms of adding like Luis Ortiz, Jacob Junis, Paul Sewald, like
Santana.
Santana, like they did have an active offseason in that regard. So like maybe there's reason for I'm not saying we've said there's reason for optimism, but like, there should be some excitement for the season based on what the Cavs are doing. Maybe it's not a perfect 1-to-1 comparison. I don't know.
I also think like the other part too, just if we're being honest with it, is, so I think right now, one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of people, there's a lot of negativity because there's the perception that they they were cheap, even though their payroll is higher now than it was a year ago at this time. Now, is it a lot higher? No. But also, for all the complaints, this team has never had the Players Association threaten to sue them for not, getting up to that level.
There is that.
They went out and made moves that, mirror the Cavs in the way of like, hey, the talk was like the Cavs or, do you break up the backcourt or what do you do? And in Cleveland, instead, it was the idea of like, well, what do you do with the player who's not living up to their extension? And what do you do with the other player who's going to walk? And Cleveland went out and made bold moves. And I think the one thing we can say is we are sitting here after this team spent a whole offseason adding starting pitching, saying, do they add enough because of health? Like, you cannot add pitching. Again, remember how bad Carlos Carrasco was? Like, almost from the start, we are like, oh boy, this is going to be right. And he spent half the year here. He's probably going to make the Yankees, the team that spends, the team that
beat the Guardians last October.
And the team that spends so much money that their draft pick falls. The team above, like, you can't make a perfect team in baseball. And, you need
Dodgers,
the Yankees.
Dodgers.
I mean, we'll see if with the rate they break their arms. Like, I mean, will they? That can always come back to haunt them. They don't have a ton of pitching depth right now. So Cleveland went out.
They do. They have enough. They have some. They have plenty of pitching depth.
They have some until someone is ineffective, till someone gets hurt. We'll have to see. But they've also been very healthy so far, which is not how it is typically for that Dodgers team. But the Yankees are kind of showing us too. It's like Cleveland went out with a directive to add starting pitching depth. And when you look around the league, you can see why. When you look at them, you can see why. And I understand people being upset where it's like, it feels like you never get to keep guys in Cleveland. But unfortunately, that's baseball. And it's not just Cleveland. I mean, Boston had a great offseason, but they traded away probably their best player of the last 20 years because they couldn't afford to keep him. No one gets to keep all their players anymore except for the Dodgers is what it appears to be. But Cleveland had a lot of pitching depth. We got to discuss some of that depth, I know, after the break. But I'm going to say that that was the right move because right now they may not have enough depth and other teams don't. So they had a good plan for this offseason.
Yes, they did. They needed to talk about that pitching depth. And by the way, the Dodgers let Corey Seager walk. So there was that. Yeah, that is that. All right. I have one more thing on Tanner Bibee, why it's important. He's the opening day starter. I will talk about more extension talk with Tanner Bibee in just a second. And we will talk about the Guardians pitching depth. And is it already being tested? That and next on Locked On Guardians. As somebody who works in marketing, I can tell you that scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. They have experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. They give you the flexibility by connecting with them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. So if you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Someone who goes through a lot of projects, a lot of launches for products, a lot of announcements for different things, and we're working on in marketing. I will tell you that it always does require an extra hand. I've worked on a lot of small marketing teams, and we've needed people to come in and help us get a plan together, how to launch it, maybe do something with a video. Having the right talent really helps. Upwork can help you connect you with the right freelance expert who deliver incredible results. And instead of hiring full-time, you can find affordable top-tier freelancers at your ready to scale your business effectively when you're ready. So visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with the top talent and grow your business today. And of course, check out our friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is here. It is today. FanDuel is giving you the chance to get on the action right now like never before. New customers, if you're a new customer of FanDuel, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So that's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters, Cinderella stories, North Carolina, and who's cutting down the nets. Go in if you're a new customer. Put $5 down on a 1 seed to beat a 16. I know there have been 16 seeds that have beat ones in the past. It is getting a little weird sometimes, but I'm not a big fan of Duke. Take Duke. Bet $5 if you're a new customer. Guess what? That's $200 in bonus bets right there for you to use on the brackets all month long. Not spring training. Don't bet on spring training if you don't want to, but baseball as well. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Appreciate all of you who have made it this far in today's episode of Locked On Guardians. Hey, we've got a special announcement. Friday's show is going to feature a special guest. Our insiders know who that special guest is already. We're going to have a Guardians player prospect on. We're not going to tell everybody who it is, but we have that set up for Friday's show. Our insiders know who it's going to be. Our insiders know details about the opening day roster that we have, and we're guessing. We're having conversations with them. We're providing them with bonus content, such as extra episodes, written content, rankings, just other information we pick up along the way. I'll be picking up my information when I'm doing minor league work this year, so I will be sending them insights for minor league games, or when I cover the Guardians in person this year. If you want to be on that list, if you want to text with us during games, when news breaks, if you want extra bonus content from us at any time, join us on the Insiders group. It's on your screen. The link is on your screen. The link is in your show description. Join subtext.com/LockedOnGuardians to be a part of a super cool group of people talking about the Guardians. All right. One more thing on why it's important Tanner Bibee is starting opening day. Even if they don't reach an extension, maybe they will. I do think this is the last offseason they can do it. I do think that. It's not a negotiation tactic, but naming him the opening day starter can help them because this is a reward, right? You don't get a lot of opportunities to do this. He was the game one playoff starter last year. He carried this rotation all year last year. Opening day, yes, there's only one opening day per year. This is a reward for guys who have brought you here, who have done well. It's also merit-based, guys who deserve it. Tanner Bibee was the only logical choice to make the start. But you're also giving him a reward for what he did a year ago. He put himself in this position. He helped the Guardians get to where they were a year ago. So it's a reward too. So it's important if you're still continuing negotiations at this point to show the faith in that player, to show him you value him. So I'm not saying it's going to make or break the negotiations one way or the other, but I do think it's at least some sort of notch on the belt to put the effort forward. For what it's worth. I started my first MLB The Show franchise over the weekend. First thing I did in spring training was attempt to sign Tanner to an extension. I will say the computer said I couldn't sign Tanner for less than 5 years, $90 million. Take that for what it's worth. I don't think the Guardians are going that far in real life, but that's what the computer told me I had to do if I wanted to keep Tanner on the Guardians for the next 5 years.
No, I it feels like a lot. But the one thing I'd say is I don't know how much it is a reward. I don't know if it has any effect on negotiations, but it is a reward. Let's talk about Luis Ortiz because people are getting concerned. And I do want to say this. One of the big caveats we always talk about in spring is we don't know what a player is specifically told to work on. And it's often, especially for someone new in the organization, he might be being told to work on something, and it's also not a pitcher-friendly environment he's pitching in. And people, and this is what it comes down. Let's be honest. Like I'm the one who responds to all of your comments. I am reading all the comments. If you are in a negative mood because of the offseason, everything is bad. If you're in a positive mood, everything is good. So nothing. If you're in a negative mood, you're going to be telling me, you're making excuses and apologizing. If you're in a positive mood, you'll be like, those are good points. But this is also stuff we know. Every year, Corey Kluber is terrible in the spring because he was working on things. And, it's not a pitcher-friendly environment. You have some data that I won't step on your toes about Luis Ortiz being a slow starter. And let's just be honest, too. He has great stuff. Like, his stuff plus was fantastic, but doesn't miss bats. He is a pitch-to-contact guy. It's just that guys don't make good contact off of it. And this is a setting that's more like the guys who excel are the ones who are Gavin Williams who miss bats. And that's not Luis Ortiz. That's why if you added in a component of missing bats with what he has, he'd be a 2. Like, he would be in that conversation with Tanner and Gavin for that, like, top of the rotation. He's a mid and back because he doesn't miss bats.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this. It's spring training, so you got to be careful. The Corey Kluber thing, there was no reason to be concerned about Corey Kluber because he had a track record and he had a routine. Corey Kluber, we know, was so stringent about his routines. He did the same thing every time, every day, every way he could because he knew what his body needed, what he needed mentally to be prepared for the season and to succeed. He had been there, done that. We knew what to expect from him. He knew what to expect from himself. I think Ortiz, if you want to look on the downside of things, last year was his first real test as a starter. He passed that test. He looked really good. That's why the Guardians traded for him. That's why he's in the rotation. So he has a very limited track record of success in that role. So there's the reason for that. And there was talk in spring training, very early, like before games even started, about, the Guardians want him to work his changeup back into the mix. He scrapped it last year for his cutter, and the changeup hasn't showed up in games at all. He's been no changeups. It's been cutter, sinker, slider, four seam. So that's interesting. That's probably why he doesn't miss bats, because he doesn't really throw an off-speed pitch. Like, he has the slider, but whatever. He's a sinker, cutter, slider guy, or a sinker, cutter, four seam guy. So his fastball moves 3 different ways, which is good. Tanner has that too. The upshot here, if you look at last year's numbers for Ortiz, is that he was a slow starter a year ago with Pittsburgh. This is before he even got into the rotation. So if you're watching on YouTube, I have the graph clip. So if you look at April, his walk rate in April was horrendously bad. It was like over 30% in April. And now he was a reliever, so take that with a grain of salt. He was a reliever, so those numbers are going to be inflated because of the limited sample size. It went down throughout the year. When he got to May, the walk rate finally got below 20%. The strikeout rate got above 20%. And then as he got into July, remember, his first start wasn't until June of a year ago. He was in the bullpen until June. When we got to June, the strikeout rate got to about 20%. The walk rate got down to about 11. And then as the season went on from there, the walk rate got below 10, and the strikeout rate stayed about 20%. So not a guy with like huge strikeout numbers, but he kept the walk numbers low as the season went on. So I'm going to be hopeful. It's a very small sample size here too, but I'm going to be hopeful that maybe Luis Ortiz is just a slow starter, and this is a new environment for him. He's got new pitching coaches getting used to him. He should be getting, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look to see if he was in the major league roster with Austin Hedges when Hedges was in Pittsburgh in 2023. Ortiz might not quite have been.
I don't know if he was. I'm going to be honest, because he got traded.
Yeah. So maybe, he's working with new catchers. There's a lot of factors here, right? So I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one.
So he did the Guardians 22, here. So maybe.
Yeah, so he might be familiar with Hedges, but he's not familiar with Bo Naylor. So there's that. What is your, just real quick, what is your level of concern with Ortiz on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being, oh God, this is going to be horrible, and 1 where I don't care at all. Where is your scale?
I think a 3. I mean, just because he doesn't miss bats, we know that's important to success. I know that breaking news, I'm, being very, but it's one of those things that there's a reason why it's important to have that out pitch. Now there are guys who can be very successful not doing it, but I guess mine is always lower too, because it's like worst case scenario, if this doesn't work as a starter, and that is a bad case, like you want him as a starter, he's proven he can be effective in the pen. Like, you have got a useful arm one way or another. I would much rather it be a starter, but there is enough out there that makes me think he's going to be successful that I'm not really all that concerned. It's just, I'm not going to completely blow it off, but I'm also not going to run around shrieking the sky is falling.
I'm surprised you didn't say a 1 just because you don't care about spring training at all. So I thought you'd be a 1. I'll say I'm at a 4 just because walks are bad and maybe it's going to be bad early for him. I'll say just a 4, but yeah, overall I'm not really concerned because he's going to be in the rotation and he hasn't looked as bad as Triston McKenzie. He's healthy, so those are 2 things that he has going for him versus other guys who we're going to talk about in just a second. Health and struggles is testing the Guardians' pitching depth. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the bullpen situation. We'll talk about who is going to fill out this roster a week away from opening day. That is all coming up on Lockdown Guardians.
I love a new sponsor, and I love a new local sponsor. So today's episode is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build and practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. We just talked about it in today's show with Jose Ramirez. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the All-Stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make the everyday easier. Seeing your whole supply chain is easier. Managing logistics is easier. Responding to price changes is easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at easierwithepicor.com. That's easierwithepicor.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
You are muted, Justin.
I just pulled a Jeff. That's awesome.
You did.
All right,
That's what happens when you come back from ad reads.
Luis Ortiz is healthy. That's a good thing. I am at a 4 in terms of his struggles. Let us know in the comments or on social media or loguardianshow@gmail.com what your level of concern is over Luis Ortiz's walks early in camp or late in camp at this point.
35. This guy is
35.
falling. Give up on the team. Might as well sell it and move on.
It goes to 11. It goes to 11, right? Is that the line?
It does. Yes, that is the line.
The good news is Tanner's good. Gavin's really good. But yeah, Luis is struggling. We know about Triston McKenzie's struggles. Slade Secconi is not going to be ready for opening day. He is out to start the season as well, joining the injury list. He is out with a oblique strain. I don't love this one. I got to be honest. Oblique strains are not good for baseball players. They are especially bad for pitchers. They are especially bad in spring training. The Guardians are calling this mild. He's already started a return to throw program. That's good. So maybe this won't be as bad as we think it is. I didn't think Slade Secconi was making the opening day roster to begin with. I always thought he was going to AAA because
yes, agreed.
Some of the outings that he had early on were not particularly awesome. Like we saw the new fastballs he was working on, and he was throwing hard, which is good. He always threw hard. I just thought there was a lot. I just thought there was things the Guardians want him to work on. I think spring training is hard to come to a new team and be working on all these new things and then take them into the regular season right away. So I think that him going to AAA and working in a low pressure environment, all the new things the Guardians are working with him on, like new fastball shapes, some delivery tweaks. I think as long as he's healthy going to AAA, that's fine, and he should be built up as a starter anyway. Maybe Secconi long-term is a better fit for the bullpen. Maybe that's where he'll end up. But I also think that they should stretch him out as a starter just to have the depth and see if he can do it because he's more valuable that way. So I think the low-pressure environment of A, returning from an injury, and B, working on all those things might be the better option anyway. So like I said, I didn't think he was making the opening day roster, but I think it'll be fine, even though I don't love oblique injuries and spring training.
Yeah, he had the most to work on. He kind of had to scrap his fastball and move on from there. So I never thought he was a guy who really stood a chance. I know at points we talked about that extra bullpen. I thought Nikhazy would be the guy more than him if they went with a young guy in the pen. They're not going with either because pitching depth, right? We're seeing the importance of that. But yeah, obliques are never fun. They can just stretch on forever, somewhat pun intended there with the use of the word stretch. So it's
real gut punch.
Yeah, it stinks because he's one of the more intriguing of the depth arms, because we talked about Ortiz doesn't have the secondary stuff. He's got that secondary stuff. He has the pieces to maybe be better than Ortiz. So this stinks, but they've had other guys who have oblique injuries. It just, I guess if you're going to look at it from a positive point of view instead of a negative, if you're negative, you're like, well, this is going to kind of really ruin the year for him. The positive point of view is he was just going to work probably on pitch development most of this year anyways, and he can do some of the grips and other things. There's ways to still work on how you do and visualization and some of the other things. So it's not perfect, but at least they can continue to work on some of the things. And hopefully it's not that the new approaches his body did not like and it became an issue there.
Yeah. Let's talk about Logan Allen really quickly. We're running low on time, but let's talk about Logan Allen. So Triston, the reason we're saying pitching depth being tested too is that, Triston McKenzie's struggling, not necessarily injury related, but he's struggling. We'll talk about where we're at with that in a second. Obviously Slade Secconi is hurt. Luis Ortiz is struggling. So Luis Ortiz is incredibly important to this rotation this year because he makes up kind of their big three of plans. Ben Lively is still the king of options and has had a solid spring overall. Logan Allen is interesting, and I still want to be inclined that Triston McKenzie is making the team just because of options, blah blah blah. But Logan Allen today, like on Wednesday, 4 2/3, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, a walk. That's fairly good for him. Now, to be fair, he faced the Angels, but he also faced all the regulars in the Angels lineup. He faced 4 at bats, a couple of bats of Taylor Ward, Nolan Shawnoel, Trout, Soler, Ohapi, Anderson. Jose Ramirez did not play in that game. He was at the other game. Luis Rengifo, Joe Adell, Kevin Newman, who's in for Zach Nato. So, he faced all their regulars. I don't know. I'm kind of wondering, does Logan Allen factor into the rotation? If Triston McKenzie doesn't make it, I say yes. Does Logan Allen factor into the bullpen? Does Joey Cantillo go to the bullpen? Because he came out of the bullpen behind Bibee the other night. Where do you have Logan Allen factoring in at this point? He's had a good spring. He's had a pretty good spring.
He has, but his velocity has been down.
It's been about the same.
Isn't it down a little bit compared to where it was? He is just so.
It's been about the same.
He's borderline, right? He is the king of borderline. If Lively's the king of options, this is the guy who's the king of everything has to go right. Because unfortunately he didn't have velocity, which I think myself and most other people expected once he got to the org. And he probably is the next guy up, and maybe it can work. There's a lot of borderline lefties who have made it work over the years. And he's an athletic guy, and that helps. I think he is. I think he is ticketed to AAA. You're gonna have him and Nikhazy are kind of the next guys up. I think McKenzie's gonna get every opportunity, and much like if Arias struggles at second base by the time we get to the end of May, well, hey, welcome up, Juan. If Triston McKenzie isn't working by the end of May, it's let's give Logan Allen a go until Bieber is healthy, or unfortunately someone goes down before it. It's you might go to Allen before Nikhazy, or some of the before a Parker Messick or an Austin Peterson is up in AAA. So you've got kind of a list, which again is so much better in the situation they were in a year ago. They still have that depth, but this is why it was so important to add all that depth, because Ortiz is a little bit questionable, right? McKenzie is a lot questionable. Logan Allen, very questionable. They have all these question marks, but now they have the depth to, if a guy isn't working, because McKenzie, Allen, and Carrasco did not work a year ago. Straight did not work. All 3 of them, not good. That you don't have to stick with those guys till July like you did a year ago.
Yeah, I guess the reason I'm more concerned about, I'm not concerned, but the more reason I bring up just again being tested on pitching is that they need to have their big 3 right, and their big 3 is Bibee and Williams. And Williams had another great start, so I'm jacked about Williams. I think at this point. By the way, last year 91 miles an hour for Logan Allen. This spring 89.9. So it's a little down.
I thought he was down.
It is down a little bit.
I mean,
so
that's 2 miles.
So
it's
Yeah, we'll see. They need the big 2 to go right. Obviously, Gavin's had a great spring, and he actually, if you want some more positive from him too, in his game against the Athletics today, 21 curveballs. So he finally broke out a secondary pitch. Also threw 11 sliders, so it wasn't just all fastballs. So that was good to see and looked really good. But yeah, they have more options for sure. That's why I continue to think that McKenzie makes this roster, but. You still have Cantillo. You still have Allen if he goes to AAA. You'll still have Nikhazy. I guess that is better than what they had a year ago.
It's significantly better.
I'm just looking for more upside, this rotation. I know they won a lot last year at the very bad rotation. I guess I'm just looking for more upside, and I'm a little concerned about the upside. Right.
The problem with upside is it's hard to find it, right? And they've picked at the end of the rounds, and there's Tanner and Gavin where it's worked out. But the past few years, let's be honest, the college group has been awful. The last 2 years, it's been terrible college pitching. It's the opposite. This year looks like the strength of the draft, but that's also hurt their ability to have those guys. They haven't chased a bunch of college pitching in the last 2 drafts because they've been awful classes. Guys have not pitched well. Guys are not developing. Schools are not doing a good job with it. So that's part of their problem as well. That's why they're kind of lacking some of the ceiling they sometimes found. They're just, you can't, was it squeeze blood from a stone is the old expression. You can't force pitching.
Right. Yeah. All right, so at this point, we're gonna have to get out of here. We don't have time to talk about
Yeah.
Juan Brito that much. I will say Juan Brito has played better in opening in recent days. I don't know if that's enough for him to make the roster at this point. I think Cleveland will more likely do it's hard for young hitters in April. I don't know. I'm still convinced that Gabriel Arias is the second baseman to start the year. If I had to pick, I would say I'll still say Triston McKenzie's a fifth starter. I'll say Gabriel Arias is at second base. I'll say Will Brennan and Noel in right field.
Yep.
And in the bullpen, I don't know. In the bullpen, I think I might go Vince Velasquez.
I go Allard.
Grouping. Yeah, they've mentioned Allard. There might be room for both. Honestly, there might be room for both.
It's just a little bit harder now that Junis and Walters are actually pitching.
Walters is healthy, so there is that. Yeah. I don't know. I also want to know, like, do you don't need a fifth starter for a while. I didn't bring up the schedule, but like, I looked at the schedule. You don't need a fifth starter until you come home. Like, can they avoid using Triston McKenzie? Because if you look on the screen on YouTube, they play the 27th. They don't play. They're off the 28th. They play the 30th, the 29th and 30th. They play the 31st. They play the 1st. They play the 2nd. They're off the 3rd. They play the 4th, 5th, the 6th. They're off the 7th. They play the 8th. So they don't need a fifth starter until the first home series. So, like, you could skip the fifth starter early on if you really wanted to, and maybe send, Triston McKenzie to the bullpen and have him come out of the bullpen then and minimize whatever's going on with him and just use Tanner. If they don't use the fifth starter early on, Tanner could start the season opener, and he also could start the home opener. And I think that would be awesome because that would also coincide with an extension outside, maybe.
I don't think an extension's coming. I got to be honest. I don't think extensions are coming. We're not even hearing a whisper of a whisper on it. So I just don't want to get false hope. I feel like it's
all right. Jeff's a buzzkill, but what's not a buzzkill is our episode coming Friday. We have a special guest coming Friday. Try to guess who it is. It's a Guardians prospect who's had a lot of buzz recently. Let us know who you think it is. We're excited for him to be on with us. Next week we'll come back. We'll talk about expectations for the Guardians outfield. We'll do a mailbag, and we've also got the season preview to talk about ahead. The season's a week away. I'm excited. I know excitement's been waning lately, but I tell you what, I'm excited for baseball. I'm excited for real baseball. I'll admit it, Jeff. We are at the point of spring training where I'm ready for spring training to be over.
We didn't really get a chance to dive into it, but I think one of the problems is it's been a boring spring training. I think that is just the thing. Like last year
is that a good thing though? Like, is that a good thing?
Well, it is, and it's not, right? Like it was nice last year when Chase, even though you and I knew he wasn't going to make the team, when he was something to talk about. He was something exciting and fun to watch. We just haven't had it that year. And that's unfortunate, but like, it's going to be nice when we have real baseball, like we're having real baseball here. My question for this day is, I've been spending a lot of time with my kids of late and watching a lot of children's television. What was your favorite television show? Children's television, like, Sesame Street's an easy one, but I have a very fond memory of 3-2-1 Contact and Square One. Does anyone else remember these shows? But what was your favorite, like, PBS or educational show growing up? Let's do that in the comments. I feel like that's something people will be passionate about. So put that down there. Remember to rate and review. Look forward to our special guest tomorrow, whose initials are, well, I'm not going to tell you. But it'll be somebody fun. Thank you for joining us, and go Guardians.
Opening day, let's go.